The Detroit Pistons got their sixth win of the season against the Oklahoma City Thunder of all teams. One of the best teams in the Western Conference. The Detroit Pistons were able to beat them by double digits. We're going to talk about that great team win, and if there should be any crazy takeaways from this game, we'll talk about that in today's episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I'm your host, Quiiiz. You can find me over on Twitter at Quiiiz. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We're free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. Look, I was going to record an episode for you guys yesterday, but I think everyone understands that Lions loss was just it broke me. I'm still broken right now. I sat in this seat that I'm sitting in right now for like 3 hours just staring at the screen. Just like I couldn't record after that. It was all of us Lions fans out there, it just broke me. Absolutely broke me. There was no way I could record. I needed some time. I needed some time to get over it. I'm not really fully over it right now, but there was no way I could record after. I was too mad. Couldn't talk about it yesterday. So we're getting a midday episode here. Apologize about that, but I'm sure all of you guys who are Lions fans will understand. Go Lions, though. Great season. Great season. So I want to talk about the win against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Then after that, I want to talk about some of the crazy takeaways that we've been hearing from some fans. And then also trade deadline is a week away. We'll talk about that as well. But let's just talk about the Oklahoma City Thunder game in and of itself. Just that game. The Detroit Pistons, for the first time all year, finally beat a team that they weren't supposed to beat. And if you guys remember going back like maybe 2.5 months ago, when the Pistons first started this losing streak, I said that it was possible they could go on a long losing streak, but usually every year there's multiple games where teams lose games they shouldn't lose, and then they win games they're not supposed to win. The better team will lose to a team that no way you're supposed to lose to them, and then a losing team will beat a team that they're not supposed to beat and be like, oh, that was a good win. Usually that happens. For the Pistons, that hadn't happened at all. Like they went, we all know how long they went without winning any games, let alone against teams that they shouldn't have won against. They couldn't even beat teams that maybe they had a lead on and should have won. So this is the first time this year that they have finally beat a team that maybe they weren't supposed to beat. And it was a good win. It was an early game, Sunday, because of the Lions game. The Oklahoma City Thunder, one of the best teams in the Western Conference. They have an MVP candidate. I think probably is the MVP as of right now, but to each their own. And SGA, he played fantastic. And yeah, maybe the Thunder didn't take the Pistons too seriously. And if they played the Thunder again, yes, the Thunder would probably destroy them. It doesn't matter, though. What happened Sunday, and the Pistons got a good, really, really good win. And they should be happy about that. In this game, Jalen Duren played absolutely fantastic. Now, I do want to say this. To start this game early, in that first half was horrible. That first half that the Detroit Pistons played was absolutely horrific. The start to that game was one of the worst starts of the year. It had me questioning so many things. I was just sitting there like, this is just horrific. Like, you can't blame the coach for this. Like, the stuff that was happening in that first quarter, from missed assignments, missing switches, missing backside rotations, Jalen Duren or allowing, I believe, SGA to get an offensive rebound on the block on a free throw. Like, that kind of stuff can't happen. Like, it was so bad in the first half. But in the second half, they completely turned it around. Played some really good basketball. And honestly, it kind of started at the end of the second quarter. But they really turned around and played some really good basketball after that. So to start the game, though, it was a really horrid start. So they turned it around. Specifically, Jalen Duren, who I thought had an absolutely horrific start to the game. Multiple missed assignments on the glass. Not much effort defensively. Missing assignments defensively. Just was not very good. But he turned it around, ended up having a great game. 22 points, 21 rebounds, 6 assists. I believe he was the first player to do this, and we all know who the guy was. First player to do this since Andre Drummond in January 2020, to have a 20-20-5 game for the Detroit Pistons. Good company to be in. That is a really good stat line. I really liked how he played in this game after that first half. You really saw some of his offensive freedom, not as much, in the first quarter, he took like a pull-up midi and it like went flying at the backboard. Like that stuff can't continue to happen. That needs to just be taken out. But the dribble drives that get him all the way to the rim, that he showcases his touch. He dunks on people. Like, he's been doing really good. Showcases his incredible footwork that he's improved on. Like, his footwork is crazy. That reverse pivot move that he has, I don't think, for those of you guys who haven't played basketball, that is it's an insanely talented move to have. It's tough to have that reverse pivot while maintaining your balance and not moving your pivot foot. Like, that's an incredible move. And so he's really showcasing his footwork. Just really, and obviously on the glass, active on both ends. Like, it was a really good game after the first quarter for Jalen Duren. So I think he was probably the main reason they won this game. The other main reason, obviously, was Jaden Ivey. Now, he wasn't efficient in this game, but his hustle, I felt like, was the only thing from the first quarter that really like set the tempo and allowed, because it was an early game. If Jaden Ivey wasn't as hustling like he was in that first quarter and giving it his all, flying all over the place, diving out of bounds for loose balls and throwing it back in, the Pistons probably don't ever get like their energy back into that game. They probably end up getting blown out because it was an early game. You could tell they were on a slow start. And if there wasn't somebody on the floor that would have, been like, hey, I'm showing the energy, follow my lead. I know it's early, but I'm still going. If they didn't have that kind of example being set, I don't know if everyone else ends up picking up their energy and ends up, showing up. So I think Jaden Ivey was what really his energy kept them in the game and gave him a chance to turn it around. So that's really the biggest thing from Ivey. He was extremely active, for good or for worse. And really, it didn't matter whether it resulted in something good happening or something bad happening, because his energy simply was all the team needed because they had none. So simply seeing him have that type of energy really saved them. And the other thing that he did that was really, really important for this team, he had 0 turnovers. So as a team, they had 9, and he had 0 in this game. He played 35 minutes. He probably had the ball in his hands the most of anybody, I'd say, yesterday. Maybe him, Duren, and Bogdanovic. But definitely he was probably at the top. He didn't turn the ball over at all. So I thought Jaden Ivey really led by example with his effort and his hustle, and he also just didn't turn the ball over. And I think that really helped the team as well, helped them get back into the game. And then after they were able to get back in the game, I thought Jalen Duren really was just the one that once the whole team got their energy back, Jalen Duren just took the bull by the horn and led them to victory. He was fantastic after the first half. So I thought those were the 2 biggest takeaways by far in this game. The other takeaway is an easy, simple takeaway. I had been saying it over the last week and a half or so. Killian Hayes shouldn't be getting any minutes any longer. Marcus Sasser with another good game. He is more important. He is more important to the Pistons' future. He's actually at the top of the list, or maybe not at the top, but way higher on the list than Killian Hayes is on the developmental list. It's over for Killian Hayes in Detroit. Maybe he can be an NBA player somewhere else. I hope he can be. I'm still a fan. I hope he can get his career going around. I think there's a player in there, but it's over in Detroit, and he's playing bad. He doesn't need to be getting any minutes. All of the minutes need to go to Sasser, who played really well in this game. But outside of that, I don't think there's any other big takeaways outside of Jalen Duren really playing well and Jaden Ivey not turning the ball over, playing mistake-free, and keeping the team in it with his energy. When he noticed that his team didn't have it, he led them by example with that energy, and he really led them to a victory. The ball moved around really well. A lot of guys scored. You had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys in or 6 guys in double figures. You had 2 other guys right outside of it at 9 points in Nassar and Monte Morris. The team, again, like I said, only had 9 turnovers, had 27 assists. They were moving the ball pretty well against this OKC team, getting stops and getting out on the break. Played really well. A really good overall team win. After that first half, probably the best the Pistons have played all year. They really put it together and played a good game in that second half. So clap it up for them. That was a game they hadn't had really all year. Actually, go back to the first 3 games of the year. Those games were pretty good. But since then, this was probably their best performance since. It was a really good win. Really good win. Really good performance. And you should be happy with it. With that said, Cade Cunningham did not play in this game. He was a late scratch. And there's some crazy, out-of-bounds, wild takes going around. Are the Pistons better without Cade Cunningham? I'm going to address that. Just absolute insane lunatic. Just absolutely insane take to have. We'll talk about that when we come back. But first, I've got to tell you guys about one of our sponsors, eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll easily find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you'll get your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guarantee Fit only available to U.S. customers. Again, at ebaymotors.com. Then I've got to tell you guys about another one of our sponsors, and that's FanDuel. A few years ago, didn't know anything about betting. When it became legal in Michigan, went to FanDuel, and I have not turned back since. It is absolutely amazing. I love FanDuel, and happy Super Bowl to everyone who celebrates from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. The line should have been in it, but it is what it is. If you're like me, Super Bowl Sunday is all about scoring the best seat on the couch, grabbing your favorite football snacks, and placing some super bets. The last few years, I've been super active on Sundays. I haven't had a lot of success the last 2 years, but in that Tampa Bay Super Bowl, man, I had Sean Murphy Bunting, one of my boys, went to high school with me. He plays he used to play on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I had his over in tackles and over in passes defense. Ended up winning a couple bucks on that with FanDuel. FanDuel has so many different ways for you to end the season with a W or 2 or 3, hopefully. Not only can you bet on who will win the Super Bowl 58, but FanDuel also has bets for which player will score a touchdown, how many points will be scored, and so much more. New customers join today and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports book partner of the NFL. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons, hit that subscribe button, or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. That's another great way to support the podcast. Let me just get this out the way. What I'm about to talk about right now is one of the most insane things I ever thought I'd have to address. For those who actually believe this or think this, or had this thought even come to their heads, just absolutely insanity. Just crazy. Absolute crazy talk. But we're going to have to talk about it nonetheless. Are the Detroit Pistons better without Cade Cunningham? No. There you go. That's the answer. Absolutely not. They're not better without Cade Cunningham. Like, as simple as that. I can't believe I had to even come on here and address that. But no, they're not better than Cade Cunningham. Let's go ahead and address this. The first thing I started seeing in the Pistons community. Started seeing people say, over the last, since Cade's been out, the Pistons now have 3 wins. He didn't play in those games. They must be better without him. Okay, let's just destroy that real quick. What happened? What happened before this 3-game, let's just say this, what is it, an 8-game good streak? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-game good streak. What happened right at the top of this? Oh, a trade? A trade happened. Oh, on the January 14th, the Detroit Pistons traded Isaiah Livers and Marvin Bagley for Mike Muscala and Danilo Gallinari. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, well, that is pretty interesting. How many games has Cade got to play with them? Cade must be great. Must be so happy about this trade. He got to play with them, right? Oh, Cade was out this entire time since that trade happened. So is it possible that it's not that Cade wasn't playing is what led them to a victory? These 2 victories that they had before this last one, so 3 victories. Was it the fact that Cade didn't play is why they won these games? Or is it because they finally got guys who are 6'9", 6'10", 6'11", that can shoot threes, that can space the floor out? Is that what happened? Oh, well, I don't know. Let's just look at the minutes. Now, this is incredibly small sample size, but 8 games or 7 games also is incredibly small sample size. But people want to go crazy with this 7-game sample size to try to say Cade, the Pistons are better without Cade. But all of it's small sample sizes. Danilo Gallinari, when he's on the floor, has a on-off difference of plus 49. That's the most on the team. Oh, Mike Muscala in his 7 games since joining the team is a plus 23.2 on off net rating since joining the team, the second most on the team. Who would have thought? Well, I thought it was just because the Pistons were better without Cade. It couldn't have anything to do with the fact that they went and somewhat addressed the issue of not having guys who can play the 5 or the 4 that can space the floor and allow you to have optimal spacing and allow you to play Isaiah Stewart at the 5 and allow you to play Asar Thompson next to another guy who can space. And now you can have Asar Thompson in pick and rolls and have him get to the basket and roll to the basket instead of having another player at the rim who's guarding Jalen Duren or is guarding another non-shooter. Now you actually have the floor space. You can use Asar Thompson in a better way. Now you're creating all kinds of space. You're using his gravity, rolling to the rim. You can kick out to open shooters. You have a big man who's able to shoot and bring guys out. That has to have absolutely nothing to do with the fact that Pistons have won 3 games without Cade over this streak. No, it's just because Cade hasn't played. Like that, come on. It's just insane. I can't believe that this is something that's actually going throughout some of the... Now, I'm not going to say it's all Pistons fans. Definitely not all Pistons fans. Definitely not the majority. But it's a good enough amount that everyone's talking about it now. And I have to address it. No, the Detroit Pistons are not better without Cade. That's absolutely insane talk. That's absolutely crazy. The Pistons are playing better over the last 7 games. I don't even think they've played that great over the last 7 games. I think people are just overhyping it. They beat a Washington team that's just as bad as them. That by the way, just beat them by 14. They beat a Washington team that at any given night can just decide to be worse than the Pistons, basically. They're just as bad as them, so beating them shouldn't be some world-beating talking point. Oh, they must be better without Cade. That's first. And then second, they beat a Charlotte team. Now, look, just add them to the list. Another team that the Pistons beat that just made a trade the day before, so they were without their second leading scorer in Terry Rozier and the guys they traded for. By the way, Kyle Lowry is not even going to play for them, so it's not like he would have been replacing them anyway. So they beat another team that had just made a trade the day before. And their best player in LaMelo Ball had an absolutely horrific night. Oh, also, Charlotte was without Mark Williams and Gordon Hayward. So, can we stop? Can we please just stop? Just chill out. And by the way, the reason why they beat Charlotte was not because the young guys are playing so much better without Cade. The young guys played horrific in that game against the Charlotte Hornets. The only reason why the Pistons beat the Charlotte Hornets is because Bojan Bogdanovic turned into Reggie Miller and had 34 points. Jane Ivey was 4 of 10 in that game, only played 22 minutes, had 9 points. Jalen Duren only played 22 minutes. 4 points, and the Charlotte Hornets were without 4 players. That's why they won. It's not because all of a sudden Cade's not on the floor, they're playing so much better. No, the Pistons played horrific in that game. The Hornets were just worse and missing guys. That's what happened. So no, the whole talking point of the Pistons being better without Cade is absolutely insanity and has no base to it. No base to it. It's just a talking point for people who want to react. Just want to react to crazy stuff on small samples. So they beat the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, that's the only one I'll say was a legit win. That's a really good win to have. They beat the Oklahoma City Thunder, and they played really well in this game. It was good to see. It was good to see. Cade so happened to be a late scratch. Okay, I don't think they won because of Cade being not in the game. That's just insane, dude. I can't believe that this is something we're talking about. If Cade was playing these last 7 games, I promise you, as anyone who's watched Cade throughout his career, especially his rookie year when they had spacing, remember the second half of that season, his rookie year, when all of a sudden the Pistons were playing, I don't want to say near 500 basketball, but they were playing way better. I don't remember how many wins they exactly had, but everyone knows they were winning way more games in the second half of that season after they made that trade for Marvin Bagley. When you have spacing with Cade, the team looks a lot better and they operate a lot better. So if Cade would have been playing these last 7 games as well when they made that trade, they would have had similar results. Maybe they would have won an extra game. Who knows? But the real reason why the Pistons are playing better is because they got rid of Isaiah Livers, who was quite literally destroying them when he was on the floor. And that's coming from someone who believed in Isaiah Livers, but they were just getting destroyed in his minutes. They got rid of him and replaced him with Mike Muscala, who actually has been really good for the Pistons, shockingly. I didn't expect him to be good for the Pistons. He hadn't had a good season at all, but he's been really good for the Pistons. And his ability to space the floor and put Isaiah Stewart at the 5 has been big time. That's why they've been playing better offensively as of late. That's first. I know that was a long way of me saying all of that and getting through all of it. That's the main takeaway I want to have. The other thing I see people saying, well, Cade's turned the ball over. They didn't turn the ball over without Cade. Now they're turning the ball over a ton, yada, yada, yada. First of all, we've talked about this probably 100 times. I'm going to say it one more time. High usage guys are going to turn the basketball over. It's just going to happen, okay? You're going to have to live with it. Every high usage player, go look at the turnover leaders. They're all high usage players. It's just going to happen. That's first. Second, this idea that Cade has not improved on his turnovers, it's just because people want to look at this last game, got to win, and now everyone wants to freak out and have all these wild takes, act like they didn't just watch the previous 24 basketball games. So let's go ahead and refresh everyone's mind, since everyone wants to go ahead and have short-term memory loss. The first 12 games of the year, yes, absolutely horrible for Cade. 5 turnovers a game, can't have it. Even with having a high usage, you cannot turn the ball over five times a game. It's bad. You cannot do that, and he was really bad with it the first 12 games of the year. Deserved criticism for it. He needed to get better. I was coming on the podcast and criticizing him for it. Has to be better with it. He just has to be. Over the next 24 games, so over the last 24 games that he played, cut that down to 3.2 turnovers a game. Along with that, he's averaging 23.6 points a game, and this is including a game against Denver where he only played 10 minutes because he got hurt. So let's go ahead and take that game out. Actually, he's averaging 24.5 points a game, 48% from the field, 36% from deep, 87% from the free throw line, 7.4 assists, 4.3 rebounds. So he's had a 1.1 steals too. So it's a splits of 24.5, 7.5, 4.3, 1.1 on shooting splits of 48, 36, 87. With only 3.2 turnovers a game. Stop. Please. I can't believe that this is something that I have to come on the podcast and talk about, and we have to act like we didn't just witness Cade look like the number 1 overall pick, look like he was taking a massive leap over the last 24 games, and the only thing that we all had any positivity, only light at the end of the tunnel, was how great he had been playing. And now because they win one game against the Oklahoma City Thunder on an early Sunday morning with the OKC Thunder probably quit at halftime, we got to act like that Cade is the reason why they're losing. You know how dense that is? I cannot believe that this is a conversation. This is something that's being talked about. Something that's being talked about in the Pistons community. I cannot believe. I'm just in shock. I'm truly in shock that this is something that's being talked about in the Pistons community. It's just crazy. It's absolutely crazy. The Pistons know they're not better without Cade. They got some players that better fit what they needed to do, provided some spacing, allowed to move some players around to positions they should have been at all along, and Cade hasn't been healthy, hasn't been able to play with these new additions. Let Cade play with these new additions. I promise you're going to start to see the same kind of stuff you're talking about. Okay, there's some other, you can talk about how they used Ivy with Cade. That's on the coach. Okay, maybe they'll get better at it. You can talk about how you don't like seeing the ball in Cade's hands too much. I think that's insane. Cade's looked spectacular. They're not losing those last 24 games because Cade had the ball in his hands too much. Losing these games because when Cade plays at 24 minutes or these last 24 games, when he leaves the court, they get destroyed and the bench can't hold up. Okay, like that's what happens. Okay, so I can't believe that we're just forgetting or just ignoring what happened. Just straight up ignoring what's happened. Whatever. I'm moving on from this. Insane talk. Don't be a part of these people that are having this talk. That's just insane. Purely insane. Anyways, when we come back, trade deadline's a week away. What's going to happen? We'll talk about that when we come back. Before we get into any of that, I've got to tell you guys about one of our sponsors, Quiiiz with 3 eyes. This episode of Locked On Pistons is brought to you by Quiiiz with 3 eyes. Today we're going to have some fun and test your Piston knowledge. Quiiiz with 3 eyes is the next generation trivia experience. It's also the world's first platform where you can earn money playing knowledge games. And for Locked On Pistons fans, they've created an NBA quiz game where you can test your knowledge and win real cash. Play with friends or other fans and let your knowledge shine all the way back to the bank. You can play without downloading anything. Just go to app.quiizwith3eyes.com and start playing today. NBA Quiz with 3 eyes is the ultimate knowledge challenge for fans that live and breathe basketball. I went on there. I checked it out. There's a free option that you can do right here on my phone. I'm looking at it right now. Basketball free roll. It's a free. You can go in there. You can win real life money, but you can do it for free. This is one. You get 50 cents. But there's other ones where you can enter for $5 and win $9. You can enter in for $10 and win $18. You can enter in for $50, win $90. All kinds of stuff like that. Really test your knowledge. If you trust what you know about basketball, what you know about the Detroit Pistons, what you know about the NBA, head over to quiz.com with 3 eyes right now. Go to app.quiizwith3eyes.com to test your knowledge and win cash today. That's Quiiiz with 3 eyes, just like a three-pointer. Play now, showcase your skills, and take home cash prizes. app.quiiiz.com, where fans become champions. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons, hit that subscribe button, or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. Trade deadline is just over a week away. Just over a week away. February 8th, I believe, is the exact date for it. Will the Pistons make a move? This has been a talk all year, and I don't know what the answer is here. I know the Zach LaVine talks have been heating up, according to the rumors that these are discussions that the Pistons are still having with the Bulls on LaVine. That they are interested in LaVine, but they don't want to give up one of the core four, which makes sense for a guy like LaVine. And especially when there's no other team apparently interested and there's no other team willing to give anything. You can just offer what we've talked about a lot on the podcast, that you can offer the expiring contracts, give them immediate salary relief so they can go and do whatever they want in the offseason, acquire guys via trade or free agency that they wouldn't be able to do with Zach LaVine's contract, get it off the books, acquire maybe a Marcus Sasser or maybe a second-round pick or something. And then also while acquiring a Bojan Bogdanovic. So if you want to try to remain competitive, which it seems like the Bulls do right now, remain competitive this year and also get that salary cap relief in the offseason. That seems like what the Pistons want to do. Based off my read of the situation, what I understand, my guess is, and listen, this is not 100% sure. I'm not saying I was in the office. I looked at the trade that they sent and I know exactly what it is. But based off what I understand, if I had to take a guess on what the trade probably is that the Pistons are trying to get through, I would say it's probably Zach LaVine for Bojan Bogdanovic, one of Joe Harris and James Wiseman, maybe like a Marcus Sasser and a second-round pick. I think that's probably what they're trying to offer for the Bulls. Give them, you don't want to give them one of your main four guys, but if you have to give up Marcus Sasser with it, he's a nice young rotation player, yeah, but he's not nothing big, he's not nothing crazy. You can throw that in there, and maybe like a second-round pick, but maybe not even that. That's what I assume, based off what I understand, is what they're talking about with Zach LaVine. Do I think the Bulls will eventually accept that? I don't know. We'll see what happens. But the Pistons do have interest in Zach LaVine, and based off all the reports, these are talks that are not dead. They're not dead at all. But they are engaged in these talks still. And it's just a matter of they're basically playing a game of chicken. Who's going to, get scared first? And I don't think the Pistons are going to move off their not giving up one of their four guys. I don't think that's going to be the position that moves off. So it's basically, are the Bulls going to move off that position of needing one of the four guys? We'll see what happens. But like I said, I've said this many times before in the podcast. It's not just Zach LaVine, okay? Zach LaVine's not the only player that the Pistons are interested in. That's not the only guy that they've engaged in trade talks with. It's not just the big names either that you've heard in trade rumors. There's other guys that the Pistons have talked about. There's other guys that teams are shopping that maybe we haven't heard about. Maybe that you guys have not heard about in the reports that the Pistons haven't been engaged with before, have at least talked about. So it's not just Zach LaVine that they could go after. It's just a matter of, do the Pistons want to pull the trigger on one of these deals? And some of these deals, maybe not the one for Zach LaVine, obviously, but some of these deals you're going to have to give up something. Like you're not going to be able to give up your trash and get something good. So it's just a matter of, do the Pistons want to actually give up something to get something? And they've been reluctant to do so thus far. Now, you can argue about whether they should or they shouldn't, all of that. But whether the Pistons make a move a week from now is in their hands. It's in their hands. If they want to decide to give up stuff to get stuff, then a trade will be made within maybe two within the next week or so. If the Pistons refuse to move off some stuff that maybe they like and they don't want to give up, and instead they want to give up their trash to get something good, like I know people think this is 2K. You can just offer all of your trash and get good players, but that's not how it works. You got to give up something to get something. And that's why you haven't seen many deals with the Pistons this year. That's why you haven't seen them do anything, because they're reluctant to give off some things that maybe they like. But like I said, whether the Pistons make a move from now until the trade deadline on the 8th, just over a week from now, is not going to be because no one was active in trade talks, teams weren't willing to engage them, or there weren't guys available. No, there's guys available, and there's guys that they've talked with. It's just a matter of, do they want to move off some things that teams want to get stuff? Now, obviously, you don't want to get you don't want to get robbed, but in trades, you gotta give up something that you like to get something that you like. So that's what it's going to come down to. Not the case with the Zach LaVine thing. The Zach LaVine talks is really just going to come down whether the Bulls eventually move off of their stance of we need one of the core 4 young guys. I think the Pistons' hope with that is that as it gets closer to the deadline, they see no other teams getting involved for Zach LaVine. The Bulls will be desperate enough to get off of him because of how good Kobe White's been playing and all that. And just to really reset that they'll be like, you know what, screw it. This is the only deal we got. We get some salary cap relief and a pick or something, a second round pick. Best we can do. We'll take it. Like I'm assuming that's what they're waiting for. That's what the back and forth, again, a game of chicken. But like I said, Zach LaVine's not the only player that they've been engaged with, and we'll see what happens. If I had to take a guess, I think the Pistons are going to get cold feet. I think that's what's going to happen. I think they're going to get cold feet and nothing's going to happen. But we'll see what happens. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think is going to happen within a week. Will the Pistons make a trade or two? Let me know again, comment section down below or over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. That's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen every single day. Free and available on all your podcast platforms. Hit that subscribe button to the YouTube channel. Leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Stay safe out there. Till next time, peace out.